people think of a circular saw, they mostly think of cutting quickly through materials like 2x4s, but surprisingly you can cut through high quality materials like veneer plywoods and hardwoods with some simple upgrades and a few tips. But before we get to that, I want to talk about some safety issues, primarily supporting your material before you cut. One example is using a couple 2x4s with plywood across them. Ideally, you want to cut across the supports. If you're to cut with the supports, you can pinch and bind the blade at the end of the cut, which will tear out the end pieces. Another option for support is just a piece of plywood on a scrap piece of plywood, making sure that your blade depth is set just slightly into the sacrificial piece. And finally, one of the last pieces is a piece of rigid foam insulation, about 2 inches. You can cut multiple times through the plywood into the foam. It lasts a long time, and it's a great, safe way to fully support your material as you cut it. So we talked a little bit about supporting your material for safer cuts, but I want to talk a little bit about improving your cuts by upgrading your blade. Most saws like this one come with a 16-tooth framing blade. It'll give you very coarse, quick cuts, but to upgrade you can go to something like this. It's a 24-tooth blade. It's still considered a framing blade, but the quality of cuts that you get will be a lot better and it'll last a lot longer. For finer cuts in materials like plywood and hardwoods, you can go to something like a 40 or 60-tooth blade. This is a fine finish blade, so the more teeth that you have, the finer cut you will get. So those are 2 options that are really affordable for a simple upgrade on your circular saw that'll give you quality cuts. Finally, I want to talk about a couple quick little tips on how to make even better cuts with your circular saw by helping reduce tear out. First one is by using a utility knife and a square. So you would line your square up to your marking where you're going to make your cut and score the veneer. And what that does is it makes a pre-cut basically through that veneer, so when the saw blade cuts through it, it's already severed and it won't splinter out. Another tip, this one in hardwoods, is to use just a piece of quality painter's tape. So you apply the tape, make sure you rub it down so it seeds really well. What that does is it reinforces those wood fibers so they won't split apart when you cut through them. And all you do is mark your line on the tape, mark your edge, that's your cut line, and then you can cut through that tape and you get a clean cut edge.